topic for the day. Now, when we have talked about the meaning of diversity, we have all understood that when we are saying diversity specifically, we are talking about a strategy. How, if we are inclusive, it will help the business, and it can be used as a strategy which, maybe as a USP, which others are not, other organizations or companies are not using. So, one of the reason is because we are in a globalized economy. Diversity is more than just CSR that we talk about. So when we are talking about diversity, we are talking about embracing people from different walks of life, no matter what ethnicity, what religion, what background they are coming from. They have the same efforts that they put into the work that they have been empowered with as the other employees which are there. So the whole concept is that whenever a company is embracing diversity in their workforce, it will benefit them from variety of perspectives, and it will also lead to innovation and problem solving. A diverse workforce also enables businesses to better understand and serve a broad customer base, fostering stronger connections in different markets. Beyond the internal advantages, diversity strengthens an organization's adaptability to dynamic business environment. Companies that prioritize diversity are more resilient, attracting top talent from varied backgrounds and fostering inclusive workplace cultures that boost employee engagement and productivity. Moreover, with the various types of examples that we have seen, case studies we have realized that it can become a core business strategy for organizations and companies, and they can have a competitive edge over others. Uh, Now, here, this is a report, which is McKinsey's report, how by being inclusive, their revenue have increased by 35%, the growth. So women representation in 2015, it was only 15%. In 2018, it grew to 21%, 2020, 25%, and by 2023, they had 39% of women representation in the workforce that they had. Ethnic diversity grew from 35% to 586, means that is 33%, 36, and over a period of uh, from 2015 to 2023, it increased to 39%. So 8 new countries were incorporated in gender analysis and 2 new countries for ethnicity analysis. So this is how it looks in a McKinsey report, and you can very well see that when we are talking about inclusiveness, we are talking about diverse leadership, the result is always positive. The evolution of diversity in organizations from compliance to strategic advantage. So initially people thought that this is a must to do, and they started including in their organizations, but over a period of time they realized that this can be used as a tool, and they can use it as a strategic advantage over other over other organizations. So here I've given some of the pointers. Diversity in organizations had evolved significantly over the years, shifting from a legal obligation to a powerful driver of business success. Companies focused on meeting legal requirements to avoid penalties and ensure basic workplace fairness. However, this compliance driven approach often resulted in surface level diversity initiatives rather than meaningful integration into business strategy. As workflows became more globalized and competitive, organizations began recognizing the deeper value of diversity. So over a period of time, they observed and realized that it is not just about being inclusive, but they figured out that if there is diversity which they take into, say, in-depth study or a in-depth research within the organization, they realize that there can be a lot of positive impact of the same. This transition market marked a shift towards inclusion where companies actively sought to leverage. So first was gender representation. A lot of companies worked on and still working. Then they thought of inclusion. Inclusion is basically where companies actively sought to leverage diverse perspectives, experiences, and skills to gain a competitive advantage. Today, leading organizations view diversity as a strategic asset. Research shows that companies with diverse leadership teams are more innovative, financially successful, and adaptable to changing market conditions. By embedding diversity into talent management, decision making, and corporate culture, businesses unlock the full potential of their workforce. So the evolution of diversity in organization reflects a broader understanding that inclusivity is not just a moral imperative but a business necessity. So over the number of years, many of the organization has adapted it as a strategic advantage than other organization. Now this is a Harvard Business Review video that diversity is good for business and how it can be used as a strategic advantage.
My name is Jamila Bowman Williams. I'm a professor of law at Georgetown University, and I'm also a faculty fellow here at Harvard Business School. Primarily, I study race and gender inequality in organizations, and I look for different solutions to start solving for some of these inequalities. Recently, I've been looking a lot at the messaging we use in organizations to deal with inequality and looking for more equity and inclusion and diversity in organizations. The primary messaging and approach that organizations are taking are the business case for diversity. So saying that diversity essentially is bringing benefits and it's helping the bottom line. It helps our teams. It helps our organizations perform better. But what this ends up doing is it leads to a surface level approach to DEI. You hire people in, but you don't actually change the culture. You don't change the system to be a place where all of that new talent can actually thrive and do well and move up the career trajectories. So it actually creates a more of a problem than it actually solves. That's the dominant approach, but yet it also triggers different resistance and backlash and biases that many of our leaders aren't aware of. Leaders are overemphasizing the bottom line and the rational arguments for diversity. So essentially, there's more of a disconnect the more we make this an issue of profit, when equity and inclusion are not issues of profit. It's a time where there's more accountability now than there ever has been. So your employees are watching, your future employees are watching, your customers are watching, your investors are watching. So really, they're looking for accountability. So what I would like for CEOs to do with this research is to begin to reflect on the approaches that they're taking. If they're really leading with this business case for diversity, and we found that it's detrimental, it may be a time to stop that approach and try something new. So once we move away from monetizing and extracting profit from people's identities, we move on to something where we actually are further connecting with people. We're relating to them, we're hearing their stories, and that's what actually helps us close these inequality gaps in the bigger picture.
So it was a simple video in which they're saying that the strategy that we are talking about, adoption of the strategy, adapting inclusivity cannot be just at the surface level, but it has to be much more at a higher level, deeper level, so that employees are involved and they know what is implemented, how it is implemented, etc. So this is a diversity pyramid which talks about embracing global diversity, equity and inclusion, a pathway to organization success and social impact. So internal is attracting and retaining people, recruitment, advancement, compensation, benefits and flexibility. And external will be listening to and serving society, community, marketing, etc. And the foundation of this whole thing is vision, leadership, and structure. So it's all the internal and the external factors or the sources that we are talking about are based on the foundation of the strategy and what you are looking at, what is your vision, what is your leadership, what are you expecting out of this whole concept of, say, adapting DEI within the organization, and how this can be also both ways. So when we are talking about within the organization, you're also having a certain amount of impact on the society. So that is what DEI talks about, inclusion talks about. Now, this is a example of the Boston Consulting Group study. Uh, found that companies with diverse management teams generate 19% higher revenue from innovation. So here, everything that we are talking about is based on some kind of statistics. It is not based on just, say, some theory which people have adopted, but it is also backed by a certain amount of statistics which is there, and people have observed, people have implemented, and then they are making such statements. So if they are saying that this can be a strategy, and this can also result into higher revenue from innovation, etc., then there is some kind of data that has backed the same. The study highlights the direct link between diversity and business success, demonstrating that diverse team brings a range of perspective that foster creativity, problem solving, and the development of innovative solutions. Now, the key insights: diversity drives innovation, that we are saying again, because people from different perception background are coming together. So what is it resulting into? It's resulting into innovation. Revenue growth, because we are talking about diverse workforce, it is resulting into new ideas, solutions, problem solving, and it is directly contributing to higher revenue from innovative ventures. Business competitiveness, a diverse management team can leverage a broader set of experiences, helping companies better serve diverse markets and navigate complex global business landscapes. This study underscores that diversity is not just a social or ethical initiative, but also a strategic advantage for companies looking to enhance their innovation and market performance. So it's supposed the idea that diversity should be seen as an integral part of companies' growth and success story. So whatever you are talking about, when we are talking about, say, implementing diversity within the organization, it has to be linked with the vision, mission of the organization, and also linked with the growth of the organization. It cannot be done in isolation. So this is traditional versus diversity driven company, just a study based on comparison of organizations which are traditional in nature. So, benefits of diversity: bringing together individuals with different backgrounds and experiences. Innovation fosters creativity and outside the box thinking. Productivity challenges established norms and practices. Contributes unique perspectives and insights. Leads to emergence of novel ideas and approaches. Improves processes and problem solving. Enhances productivity within an organization, increases efficiency and productivity, prevents group thinking, and encourages better decision making. Attracts and retains top talent. So it creates, where innovation is concerned, it creates a workplace culture that appeals to skilled workers. And productivity, it minimizes turnover. Enables organizations to adapt to changing market demands, provides valuable insights into diverse consumer segments, helps tailor products, services, and marketing strategies to diverse markets. So this is if it is the organization which is diversity driven, then this is the outcome. The business case for diversity. Now, in today's dynamic business environment, diversity is not just an ethical commitment, it is a strategic advantage that drives long-term success. Companies that prioritize diversity benefits in multiple ways, from increased employee engagement to stronger brand reputation. Below are the three key reasons why diversity is essential for organizational growth and sustainability. First is higher employee engagement. So we are talking about employees who feels more belonged to the organization. When employees feel valued and respected, automatically what happens is that their loyalty, their motivation is much more higher, and what will they do is they will give their best for the output that is expected out of them. Research also shows that inclusive organization experiences lower turnover rates, attrition rate will be lower, they have improved morale and greater collaboration, all of which contributes to the overall business productivity. Then better decision making. Diverse team brings together individuals with different experiences, viewpoints, and problem solving approaches. This diversity of thought enhances creativity, innovation, and critical leadership teams, which makes better business decisions 87% of the time, outperforming more homogeneous teams in problem solving and risk assessment. Stronger brand reputation, organizations that champions diversity build stronger relationship with customers, investors, and stakeholders. Also, consumers increasingly prefer brands that reflects and supports diverse communities, and businesses that embrace inclusivity are seen more ethical, forward thinking, and socially responsible. A strong reputation for diversity also attracts talent, helps companies secure a competitive edge in the global job market. So it's very simple. So when we are talking about the case for diversity, we are talking about three things: higher employee engagement, better decision making, and stronger brand reputation. Now, example, Goldman Sachs requires at least one diverse board member before IPO. Recognizing the critical role diversity plays in corporate success, Goldman Sachs implemented groundbreaking policies in 2020 requiring companies it helps take public through IPOs, that is initial public offerings, to have at least one diverse board member. So this is a requirement they have put together, and they are following it as a say for example as mandatory for the organization. This initiative later expanded to require at least two diverse directors, highlights the financial industry's growth emphasis on inclusive leadership. By enforcing these diversity requirements, Goldman Sachs not only pushes companies towards better governance, but also aligns with investors who prioritize ESGs, that is environment, social, and governance factors in decision making. This policy also reinforces the idea that diversity is not just about compliance; it is a business necessity that influences long-term performance and market credibility. So it's very simple. What they did was they made sure that to be more inclusive, there is something they have to do which others are not doing. So they came up with this idea that one diverse board member before the IPO should be there. Now, this is ROI of diversity in business. Over the age of 25, they have the necessary education and skills to access most of the jobs. So here they have given about the Black, the Hispanic, and white. This is national, it's a source from the National Center for Education Statistics. Now we'll discuss the theories of diversity. So first is the social identity theory, which is the SIT, also known as SIT. I have the image of the model also in the next slide. Yeah. It is developed by Henry and Turner. Social identity theory explains how individuals categorize themselves and others into social groups, influencing workplace interaction and group dynamics. Employees derive part of their identity from their group membership, example, gender, ethnicity, or professional background, which can lead to in-group favoritism and out-group bias. Implications for diversity. Now, social identity theory highlights the challenges of workplace diversity, such as potential group-based conflict and biases. It also underscores the importance of inclusive leadership and team-building strategies to foster collaboration across diverse groups. Organizations can mitigate biases by promoting a strong shared organizational identity that unites employees beyond demographic differences. So, just a moment. Okay, we'll go on to the resource-based view of diversity. This is the other theory. Now, RBV, introduced by Barney. If you see, these theories are, because it is based on people and the behavioral aspects, these are not theories which are very old. So the resource-based view introduced by Barney 1991 suggests that organizations gain a competitive advantage by leveraging unique internal resources, including human capital. Now, diverse workforce brings a variety of skills, experiences, and perspectives, which serves as a valuable, intimidable asset. Now, implication for diversity. A diverse workforce enhances creativity, problem solving, and innovation, leading to better business performance. I think by end of this session, the subject that we are doing, all of you all are aware that when you have diverse workforce, the result is obviously better business performance or organization performance. And in the say in the journey of implementing and the result, there will be creativity, there will be problem solving and innovation. Those are leading to better organization performance. Companies that effectively integrate diversity into their strategy can outperform competitors by accessing a broader talent pool and global market. RBV emphasizes that diversity must be well managed to transform into a sustainable competitive advantage rather than a source of workplace conflict. So, the theories are there, and the theories should be used in such a way that you can implement diversity, and also you can transform by using diversity as a sustainable as a basically a successful business strategy for the organization. This is the our resource based view model. If you see, these are various the I think the image you can see is a little blur. So in resources, we have the organizational capital, physical capital, human capital value, and this side we have the say non-sustainable, then hmm, other resources, valuable, etc. So this is how the resource-based view model looks. Then the last theory is the inclusion-exclusion model. Now, inclusion-exclusion model was proposed by Maur Barak in 1999, almost 2000, that is. It focuses on the extent to which employees feel included or excluded at workplace environment. Very simple. It is based on the theory whether people are feeling included or they are feeling excluded. And inclusion is not just about representation, but also ensuring that the diverse employees feels valued and engaged. So you might be inclusive in nature, but you are still differentiating by not involving the employees or engaging them. So that becomes a challenge. So here the theory talks about they will also look at whether they feel included or excluded. Implications for diversity. Organizations that fail to foster inclusion may experience higher turnover, lower employee engagement despite having diverse teams. Employees who feel excluded are less likely to contribute meaningfully, reducing the potential benefits of diversity. Successful diversity initiatives must go beyond recruitment to actively create inclusive cultures where all employees can thrive. So this is the model, affirmation, action, and equity model, where you have, the synergy also, then you have the business case, education value, social justice. So all these three circles are intersecting each other at this point where it is common with synergy, education value, social justice, etc. So this is how the model looks. Now, there are some basic biases and barriers in leadership, which is very common. Homophily bias, the tendency to hire similar people. So, homophily bias is also known as the similarity bias. It's very simple. Suppose you come from the same background and you know somebody you are interviewing is also from the same background. Now, you have the tendency to hire them than anybody else because of your bias that is existing within you, that is the homophily bias. In hiring this, it can also lead to managers selecting candidates who resemble themselves in terms of gender, ethnicity, education, or personality. So it can be gender also. I'm a woman. I would like to recruit women employees. So it can be gender bias also. Now, what will happen? The implications, it will limit diversity by reinforcing homogeneous teams, rather than embracing diverse talent pools. It reduces innovation as similar perspectives dominate decision-making process, and it creates barrier for underrepresented groups, making it harder for them to break into leadership roles. So this is a challenge and the bias that is existing. Now, groupthink, the danger of conformity in decision making. Definition: groupthink occurs when team members prioritize consensus over critical thinking, leading to poor decision making due to lack of diverse views. So, here what happens is that you rely more on uh, agreeing to a common thing than actually thinking about the problem and trying to solve it. So, what will be the implication? Obviously, it will lead to unquestioned assumptions and riskier business decisions because there is no logic behind it. Stifle creativity and innovation as employees may fear challenging the dominant perspective, and it can also result in ethical blind spots as seen in corporate scandals where dissenting voices were ignored. So this is what groupthink is all about. Then we have the meritocracy myth, the assumption of equal starting conditions. Definition: the meritocracy myth is the belief that success is based solely on individual talent and effort, assuming that all employees start from an equal playing field. In reality, systemic barriers such as socioeconomic background, access to education, and workplace discrimination impact opportunities. Now, what will be implication of this? First is justifies biased hiring and promotion decision by assuming that those who succeed did so purely on merit. Secondly, it will overlook structural inequalities that affect career progression, such as unequal access to mentorship and sponsorship. And it can also lead to resistance against diversity initiatives, with some employees viewing them as unfair advantages rather than necessary corrections. We look at the Uber's leadership crisis in 2017, PR failures due to lack of workplace diversity. So Uber's 2017 leadership crisis serves as a cautionary example of how a lack of workplace diversity and unchecked biases can damage a company's reputation and business performance. So the background, we'll just understand the background, what had happened exactly. So in 2017, Uber faced the intense public scrutiny due to allegations of sexual harassment, toxic workplace culture, and discrimination, largely stemming from its male dominated leadership team. So the crisis was triggered by a viral blog post from a former engineer, Suzanne Fowler, who exposed a culture of harassment and HR inaction. This was followed by multiple reports revealing a culture of exclusion, retaliation, and groupthink at the executive level. So, in this case, what happened was that the crisis that was already there, but it was not visible outside the organization. So, one of the employees made it public. And the blog became very viral, and what happened was that then it came into picture that what all is happening within the organization, because mostly it is male dominated. So this was followed by reports of revealing culture of exclusion, retaliation, and there was no group think at the executive level. Consequences: brand damage, very high brand damage. So it led to major public relations crisis, with many customers deleting the Uber app in protest. Leadership overhaul. So following the backlash, Uber's board forced CEO Travis Kalanick to resign, and the company implemented diversity and inclusion initiatives under new leadership. Policy changes: Uber introduced unconscious bias training, transparency in HR investigation, and stronger anti harassment policies to rebuild trust and prevent future crises. So they had no choice, but because the post became so viral, they had to make sure that the CEO resigns, and also because of the damage that happened to the brand, they had to make sure that that is taken care of. Now leadership overhaul also we saw, and the policy changes, so they had to immediately look into reworking on everything, because otherwise the company would have failed. So this is a video on how bias affects business decision by Stanford.
Unconscious biases are those impressions that exist in our unconscious mind and unknowingly inform our opinions about people. When we make judgments about people, we all have biases. We are aware of many of them, but sometimes they are completely subconscious and reflect our cultural and social experiences. No matter how unbiased we think we are, these aspects of human nature shape how we interact with people and how we make decisions. They are blind spots in our rational decision-making, and we are unaware that they exist. As one famous psychologist, Daniel Kahneman, said, "The brain is a machine for jumping to conclusions." We make judgments within seconds of meeting someone about everything from their competence to friendliness and even honesty. If we do not counter these preconceptions, we can make mistakes that jeopardize our working relationships and hinder teamwork and creativity. We live and work in a diverse society, so we must be aware that our subconscious biases and stereotypes can affect how we think and feel about people we come into contact with.
So that was the video on biases. We have done a lot of case study on gender bias and etc. Famous case study in the earlier videos and sessions. So you all can go through it. Now here we have implicit bias and stereotype threats in workplace. Implicit bias, the unconscious influence on decision making. Let's look at what does it mean? What is the definition? Implicit bias refers to unconscious attitudes and stereotypes that affects how individuals perceive and treat others. These biases operate outside of conscious awareness and can influence hiring, promotions, and performance evaluations, often reinforcing workplace inequalities. Examples in workplace decision making, hiring bias, recruiters may unconsciously favor candidates who share their background or characteristics, example, same gender, ethnicity, or education background, leading to homogeneous teams. Performance evaluation, women and minority employees may receive harsher criticism or less credit for their contribution compared to their counterparts. And leadership selection, implicit associations between leadership and traditional male traits can make it harder for women and underrepresented employees to be seen as leadership material. So this is something that is examples in workplace decision making, something which is there. It starts with the hiring bias and it goes on to leadership selection. So many a times a particular leader who is expected to be selected for that role is not selected because of various types of biases that exist. And it is really hard if you see the statistics which we have discussed earlier, and you can just see many cases where women leadership is the challenge and they are still the underrepresented section in the organization. Stereotype threat, the performance cost of bias. Now, definition: stereotype threat occurs when individuals feel at risk of conforming a negative stereotype about the social group, leading to increased stress and impaired performance. This phenomena was first studied by Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson in 1995 and has made a significant implication in workplace. Example in workplace, women in STEM. A female engineer may feel pressure to prove herself in a male-dominated field, leading to self-doubt and reduced risk-taking in leadership roles. Minorities in executive roles, employees from underrepresented backgrounds may avoid leadership opportunities due to fear of being judged as less competent. Promotion decision, managers may unknowingly reinforce stereotypes by assigning leadership roles based on traditional expectation rather than actual capability. So this is what it is. So when we say says this case of examples in workplace decision making is very common, and there is not just, a lot of organizations are now working towards, say, leadership which is not biased. That means they are looking at gender representation in leadership roles for male as well as female. So that is what they are trying. And of course, we have now, various other genders also which are included in the leadership role. Now, this is a Netflix case study of global expansion and inclusion strategy. So, localized content approach, leveraging diversity for global reach. Strategy. Netflix has revolutionized the entertainment. I mean, who thought by the click of a button you will be able to watch anything and everything that you want from the comfort of your home. So that is the kind of revolution Netflix has brought in. So the strategy was very simple. Netflix revolutionized the entertainment industry by creating market-specific content that resonates with diverse audiences worldwide instead of relying on a one size fits all approach. So Netflix invested in local talent, stories, and production teams to develop content that is culturally authentic. So what was the impact? I don't know how many of y'all, I'm sure all of y'all watch, Netflix and see the series of programs that they have. You can watch, programs of any region. You can watch, say, even if you look at movies within India, you can watch movies from any of the state, not just English or Hindi, but other various other states movies and series are available. So that is how they have changed, and they have revolutionized the whole concept of Netflix, and that is home entertainment. Now, what strategy did they use? Netflix publicly shares its diversity and inclusion report detailing the demographic composition of its workforce. This transparency ensures accountability and demonstrates the company's commitment to progress. What was the impact? It fosters trust and transparency by holding leadership accountable for diversity efforts. It encourages industry-wide change, setting a benchmark for other companies to follow. It also enhances Netflix employer brand, attracting top diverse talent. Next is inclusive leadership training, ensuring diverse executive representation. Strategy. What was the strategy they adopted? Netflix prioritizes inclusive leadership development to ensure that decision makers reflect the diverse audiences that they serve. The company invests in training programs that educates executives on bias reduction, cultural awareness, and decision making. What was the impact? It ensures fair and equitable opportunities for leadership advancement. It also creates a more inclusive corporate culture where all employees are valued and heard. It strengthens Netflix's decision making process as diverse leadership teams bring varied perspective. So this is the inclusion Netflix global inclusion model, what they did. If you see there is white and red. White is Native American and red is Alaskan Native. And this is how they have, grown over a period of time. US Race Ethnicity Director, 2021, see the data, and 2022, how it has grown. Okay, now we move on to cultural intelligence in global expansion, in global business expansion. Now, what is cultural intelligence? See, it's also known as CQ. It is the ability to function effectively in different cultures, cultural context. In global business expansion, high CQ enables companies to navigate diverse markets, build strong international teams, and foster inclusive leadership. So the four key components of CQ is what? Cognitive knowledge, motivational drive, metacognitive strategy, and behavioral action. So these are the four components of CQ. Now, why CQ matters in global business expansion? One is market entry success, adapting to local consumer behaviors and business regulation, cross-cultural leadership leading to diverse teams with inclusivity and understanding, negotiation and communication, avoiding cultural misunderstandings in business deals, innovation and collaboration, encouraging diverse perspective for global growth. Companies with strong CQ can build sustainable global operation, strengthen international partnership, and create culturally inclusive workplace. So this is what CQ does. In global business expansion, it is market entry becomes successful, cross-cultural leadership, it leading diverse teams with inclusivity, negotiation and communication, and innovation, and leads to innovation and collaboration. Now, diversity management framework. Now, what is diversity management framework? It is basically nothing but a strategic approach. You are doing something that others are not doing, or you're doing something similar to what others are doing, but your approach is different. So that organization uses to create a workplace that values and promotes diversity in all its forms, including but not just limited to race, gender, age, sexual orientation, disability, and cultural background. This framework typically includes policies and practices aimed at fostering an inclusive environment where diverse employees feel respected, valued, and able to contribute to their fullest potential. Key elements of this framework includes recruitment and retention strategies targeting diverse talent, training programs to increase awareness of unconscious biases, mentorship and career development opportunities for underrepresented groups, and mechanisms to measure progress. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure that the diversity is not just a number game, but also a cornerstone of organizational culture, driving innovation, improving decision making, and enhancing overall business performance. So, this is the whole idea of diversity management framework. We can look at PepsiCo's gender parity goals. 50% of management hires must be women. So they have made it a policy that 50% of the management hires must be women. What are the key strategy? Diverse talent pipelines. So ensuring gender balanced candidate states for leadership roles, leadership and mentorship programs, sponsorship and career development initiatives for women, pay equity audits, regular reviews to close gender pay gaps, and flexible work policies supporting work-life balance through parental leave and hybrid work option. Number 5, data-driven accountability. So, measuring progress and publishing gender diversity reports, very important, so that even others are aware of what you're doing, and you also have the accountability that what have you done different from others, and it is recorded. Strengthens leadership diversity across global market, improves innovation and decision making with diverse perspective, enhances employer brand as a champion of workplace inclusion. So PepsiCo's approach to gender parity sets a benchmark for other companies aiming for inclusive leadership. Now, this is a 5-step diversity management model. It starts with maintaining a library so that the employees can refer to any of the company's policies and know more about diversity at workplace. Everything is nowadays on the website, so employees can access it from any way. Always remember to include diversity is in the hiring process and considers one vulnerability. So it all has to start at the grassroots level. You cannot be biased while recruiting and then you want to implement diversity. Refresh diversity whenever needed as new faces help in better connection. Consider and think through others' point of view also, and always be open to creative collaboration. Strategic human resource management and diversity planning. Now, what is it? What is basic strategic human resource management? So it aligns with the HR policies and practices with an organization with an organization's long-term business goal. It focuses on workforce planning, talent management, and organization's effectiveness. The role of diversity planning in strategic human resource management. So we all are talking about strategy, how you can use this as a strategy. And in this topic, we are in different ways, we are connecting it with the objective of the organization so that it can become a strategy. Now, diversity planning within SHRM ensures that an organization proactively fosters an inclusive workforce that drives innovation, performance, and global competitiveness. Now, the key components of SHRM and diversity planning: workforce diversity analysis, assessing representation gaps and inclusion needs; inclusive talent acquisition, integrating diversity goals into recruitment and hiring; leadership and career development, promoting equitable growth opportunities; bias reduction and cultural competency training. So, by reducing biases and making sure that you are competent where cultural training is concerned, it will enhance workplace inclusivity. Then diversity matrix and accountability, using data-driven approaches to track progress. So what will be the business impact? Improve talent attraction and retention. Number two, enhanced innovation and decision making. Number three, stronger global market adaptability. And the last one, increased employee engagement and performance. Monitoring diversity metrics. So the feedback is very important, or even, the control system that we put in place is very important, because without that, you wouldn't understand whether the policies are effective, it's not effective, it is making any difference, etc. So monitoring diversity metrics is essential for tracking inclusion, progress, and ensuring a fair and equitable workplace. Organizations assess hiring and promotion data to measure workforce representation and identify gaps in leadership pipelines. Pay equity reports help uncover wage disparities and ensure fair compensation across different demographics. Employee inclusion survey, what do? They provide insight into the workplace culture. So you can, from the survey, find out what the organization has put in paper as policies, whether it is being implemented, whether they are getting benefit of it, etc. Additionally, tracking leadership representation help organizations evaluate the diversity of decision makers and implement mentorship or sponsorship programs to build a more inclusive leadership pipeline. By leveraging these metrics, companies can drive accountability, make data-informed decisions, and foster a more diverse and inclusive workplace. So this is diversity KPI scorecard. So dashboard to monitor workforce diversity. So this is how, a tool can be used and it can be monitored within the organization. Just an, outline. Now we come to the Unilever's AI diversity dashboard, which tracks leadership. This is what I showed you all. Yeah, yeah. So this is what the Unilever's AI diversity dashboard does. Unilever uses an AI-powered diversity dashboard to track and improve leadership diversity. This advanced tool collects and analyzes data on gender, ethnicity, and other diversity factors in leadership roles. By leveraging real-time analytics, Unilever can monitor hiring trends, promotions, and representations at senior levels, ensuring that diversity goals align with business strategies. The dashboard also helps identifying gaps, measures progress, and drive data-driven decision making to foster an inclusive leadership pipeline. Through this initiative, Unilever enhances accountability, transparency, and equitable career growth, reinforcing its commitment to building a diverse and inclusive workplace. How do you measure diversity effectiveness? Can be done through a balanced scorecard approach. Now, what is a balanced scorecard approach? It is a strategic tool to measure the effectiveness of diversity initiatives within an organization. So it integrates multiple perspectives, financial, customer, internal process learning, and growth into a comprehensive framework. For diversity, it involves tracking key metrics across these areas, such as financial impacts of diversity, example, revenue growth from diverse markets, employee satisfaction and retention, effectiveness of diversity programs and training, and leadership development for underrepresented groups, learning and growth. By balancing these perspectives, organizations can assess not only the quantitative outcomes of the diversity efforts, but also the qualitative impact on organization culture, innovation, and long-term sustainability. This approach provides a holistic view of how diversity contributes to business success and ensure continuous improvement. So if we have a tool, it just becomes easy to monitor, and on the suppose in the process, if you can see some gaps, that can be filled up and corrected. So that is the whole idea of the tool that we are using, especially for measuring the diversity effectiveness. Our next topic is diversity audit, which I will start. I'll take a break of 5-7 minutes, and I'll come back and start with diversity audit. We're starting with the topic diversity audit. So, all this while we have learned about diversity, dimensions of diversity, diversity strategies, etc. Now we'll talk about diversity audit. Just a short animated video about what is diversity audit.
Want to increase corporate profits? Then try Diversity Culture Audit. The Diversity Culture Audit documents the mindset of executives, including HR, and then coaches them to change the discriminatory policies. How it works? There are 7 phases. Interview of the executives to understand their job and personal beliefs. Interview of the current and former diverse employees. Company visits to understand all the operations. Initiate executive diversity coaching services. Review of different company functionalities. Producing an audit report. Implementing recommendations. So, do you want to potentially increase the revenue of your company by removing racism? Contact us today.
So, just in 7 ways we can take care of diversity audit. Now we'll come back to the theoretical part. What is diversity audit? It is nothing but the company's evaluation, comprehensive evaluation of a company's demographics and culture. Its purpose is to determine how well a company is supporting underrepresented individuals. It's also designed to identify areas of a company can improve to make it more inclusive. Example, a tech company reviewing the gender representation in leadership position to assess if there are barriers to advancement for women. So it's very simple. By doing so, what the company can do is that they'll figure out if there are actual biases for advancement or there is gender inequality. They will be able to then take a decision and take steps to remove the gender inequality. Now, conducting a diversity audit. A diversity audit is a structured, data-driven evaluation of an organization's workforce policies and culture. Its purpose is to assess how well the organization promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to identify areas for improvement. Purpose of a diversity audit: identify gaps, assess pay equity, review HR policies, and ensure compliance. Identify gaps, analyze gaps in hiring, promotions, and leadership diversity to ensure diverse representation at all levels. Assess pay equity, evaluate compensation practices. This is a very common issue, especially in manufacturing unit, where because women cannot work in the night shift, their pay for the same job what men are doing are different. So that is basically, then you get an idea why is it so. And if it's so, then there has to be a valid justification. Otherwise, it is taken as gender inequality. Review HR policies, examine recruitment, retention, and career development policies to ensure they foster an inclusive environment. Also, it ensures compliances, ensures that the organization complies with diversity regulations, guidelines, and industry standards promoting fairness and inclusivity. Data collection gathers quantitative data on workforce demographics, including gender, ethnicity, age, and disability representation, analyzes the salary gaps to ensure equitable compensation, and assess leadership representation to measure diversity at senior levels. Policy review, evaluate HR policies for alignment with diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. This will include various areas like recruitment, training, promotions. So all the policies related to various functions of HR can be reviewed, and also they can make sure that whatever revisions are done in the policy, they promote a fair and inclusive work environment. Employee feedback is a very important aspect, because why? Without employee feedback, you will not get the actual picture of the organization. So when you take employee feedback and you interview the employees, you will understand what they are facing or what are the kinds of experiences they have within the organization. And this qualitative data will provide insight to any barriers, challenges faced by underrepresented groups in the workplace. Benchmarking, another important aspect, compares the organization's diversity metrics with industry standards and best practices. This helps identify areas where the organization may be lagging and provides targets for improvement. Action plan development, based on the audit findings, develop an action plan with clear strategies to address gaps such as targeted recruitment, mentorship program, or pay equity adjustments. It will ensure that the plan includes measurable goals and timelines for implementation. Now, implementation and monitoring, execute the action plan and establish DI scorecards to track progress. Regular monitoring and reporting ensures accountability and provides the basis for continuous improvement in the organization. So if you have a feedback method, if you have a control method, if you have a monitoring method, all these are basically various ways of keeping a track of how the policies are going on within the organization. Are they making any difference? Are they implemented 100%? Are they implemented at all verticals, etc.? And it just gives you more accountability and a clear picture of what has to be done. Now, this is an example of Airbnb's diversity report. Now, Airbnb's diversity report, it led to policy changes on hiring practices. The background I'll give you, in Airbnb, there was a report that there is a gap between the representation of gender when they are in the recruitment process. Now, this report revealed that their employee base lacked diversity, particularly in leadership role, and there were disparities in hiring for underrepresented groups. So obviously, whether you talk about the gender, you talk about the other ethnicities, there was problem with that. Now, what was the key action that was taken? First, they did policy revision. What are policy revisions? They basically restructured the whole recruitment strategies, and attract a more diverse pool of candidates. Inclusive hiring practices, they also made it more structured, the interviews, and they started making sure that diverse hiring panels are involved, so that when we are talking about hiring, they are not by the common biases that exist, like if you're from the same background, it will help others from the same background, etc. All that was overcome. Transparency, they also published various diversity data which made the whole report transparent and others had access to it. ESG's employee resource group, they fostered inclusive employee networks to support diverse employees and ensure that their voices were heard in decision making processes. Now, corporate example, Nike's supply chain audit ensured supplier diversity in leadership roles. Now, what happened in Nike's supply chain audit? There was a critical initiative that aimed at ensuring supplier diversity, particularly in leadership role with their supply chain network. So here the story was different. Here they had a challenge with the supply chain network that they had, so they did an audit on it. Now, audit basically is done to understand what the real scenario is. That is what audit is all about. So the audit revealed that many of the suppliers lacked diversity in upper management and executive positions, which led Nike to implement strategic changes to foster inclusion. Key actions were taken. First is supplier diversity program. They introduced a focused initiative to partner with minority-owned and women-owned businesses. So consciously, they changed their the supply chain network. They started focusing any kind of employees who were any kind of supply, say for example, business partners who were minority owned or they are women owned businesses. Leadership development for suppliers. Nike encouraged its suppliers to implement mentorship and leadership development programs to promote diverse talent into leadership roles, ensuring that their suppliers aligned with Nike's commitment to diversity. Tracking and reporting. Nike required regular diversity reporting from suppliers, focusing on representation in leadership and workforce diversity metrics to ensure progress towards inclusive leadership. Also, incentives for compliance. Nike offered various incentives to suppliers who demonstrated measurable improvements in diversity, that leadership representation, reinforcing the importance of aligning with the corporate values. So what happened when it worked both ways? It worked for the various business partners and for the organizations, because they were able to map the missing, say, for example, gender representation that was missing. So they were able to map that with by collaborating with partners who were from the underrepresented gender. So this is just a chart of diversity audit checklist, how it looks. So this is how it looks, and this is how it is taken. Now we go on to how we can use diversity audit as a corporate governance tool. So diversity audits are increasingly recognized as a vital tool for corporate governance, offering a structured and data-driven approach to assess how well an organization is promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion within its workforce, leadership, and operational practices. By evaluating diversity metrics, policies, and cultural practices, diversity audits plays a key role in ensuring that the companies are fulfilling their governance responsibilities related to ethical leadership, fairness, and transparency. Now, the key functions of diversity audits in corporate governance: ensuring compliance and accountability. Diversity audits help organizations meet legal and regulatory requirements related to non discrimination and equal opportunity. They also ensure accountability for meeting diversity goals, making leaders responsible for fostering inclusive practices and achieving diversity targets. So this is what the function was of the audits. So when you have diversity audit as a corporate governance tool, then these are some important aspects which has to be looked into. Identifying and mitigating risk. Informed decision making. The data from diversity audits enables data driven decision making at the board and executive level. This ensures that the diversity and inclusions are integrated into the broader strategic goals, contributing to long term sustainability and competitiveness. Enhancing stakeholder trust. Transparency in diversity practices builds trust with investors, employees, customers, and other stakeholders. A well-conducted diversity audit provides valuable insights into a company's commitment to inclusive governance and reinforces its reputation as a socially responsible organization. Fostering cultural change. Diversity audits can serve as a catalyst for organization change. It also helps in shaping a more inclusive corporate culture. So they enable leaders to identify areas where policies, practices, or any kind of behaviors may be inadvertently hindering diversity and inclusion efforts, allowing them to make corrective actions. So whole idea of cross-checking is to make sure that nothing is left out. And another important aspect is that you can take steps to improve it. These are some of the future trends in diversity and inclusion. An organization continues to prioritize diversity and inclusion. The DNI, several key innovations shaping the future of DNI efforts. Number one is AI-powered diversity hiring tools. Advances in artificial intelligence and are transforming the recruitment process. So mostly nowadays, recruitment process, they also, AI generated, AI powered. So with that, what is happening? It's reducing human biases in hiring, and also but they are following certain like for example patterns, like last 4 years what the data is. So you will have to you make the changes accordingly and then expect a outcome from them. These tools also recommend diverse candidate pools and helps organization maintain diverse pipelines by continuously analyzing recruitment trends and outcomes. This technology also enhances fairness and improves the inclusivity of hiring process. Inclusive leadership training for startup founders. This is something, another initiative that has been taken for future, and it is one of the upcoming future trends. So as startup scales rapidly, the need for inclusive leadership becomes crucial. So what they do is that various studies and trends are showing that an increasing focus on equipping startup founders with the skills and tools to lead diverse teams effectively. This includes comprehensive training on managing diverse perspectives, creating inclusive company cultures, and implementing equitable hiring and promotion practices. So tailored leadership development programs will support founders in fostering environments where innovation and inclusivity thrive even in fast-paced, high-growth settings. Transparency in diversity reports are very important because we have various reports which are available, like the McKinsey report, Deloitte report, IBM reports. Now these reports serves as a for example, for many of them, for many of the corporates, as diversity. It serves as a for example, they can refer to these reports and adopt many of the dimensions of diversity within the organization to make it more inclusive, to make it more robust, etc. So that is why it's very important that these reports have to be genuine and they have to be transparent, because based on these reports others are adapting many things. So if the reports are not transparent or they don't hold true information, then others will also go wrong. So hence it's important that there should be transparency in the diversity reports. Example, Salesforce pay equity policy adjusted salaries to close gaps. Salesforce has made significant strides in addressing pay equity through its pay equity policy. The company conducts annual pay audits to ensure that all the employers are paid fairly regardless of gender, race, or other demographic factors. So this is pay audits, basically gives you a clear picture whether the employees, whether male or female or third gender, they are paid equally or no. The company invested 3 million to correct these disparities, ensuring that the employees performing similar work receive the equal pay. What were the key actions or the steps they had taken by the Salesforce? One is annual pay audits. Now this audits basically is a way to ensure that whatever you're doing is right. If there are any misses or there are any areas where you need attention, etc., it will give you that same impact. Commitment to gender and racial equity. The policy focuses on ensuring equal pay across gender and racial groups, actively closing gaps where discrepancies are found. Transparency in reporting. Salesforce publicly shares the results of its pay audits, reinforcing its commitment to equity and holding itself accountable to both internal and external stakeholders. Ongoing adjustments. The company continues to make salary adjustments as part of its annual review process to maintain pay equity across the organization. Now, Salesforce approach to pay equity highlights the importance of taking proactive steps to eliminate pay gaps, and the transparency has set a benchmark for other companies aiming to create more equitable work environment. So though we have various acts like the Equal Remuneration Act, fair wage, the minimum wages act, etc., but still there is discrimination. If you go deep into the payments that are done, there is discrimination. Hence this was set as an example because of the audits that happened and the steps they took, that they can uh, minimize the how they can minimize the gap between genders in payments. Now, these are future of workplace diversity. Diversity without inclusion is not enough, because diversity plus inclusion, a result is better business outcome, benefits of diversity and inclusion to employees, to organizations, etc. The role of artificial intelligence in diversity and inclusion, reducing bias in recruitment and hiring. AI-powered hiring tools can analyze larger volumes of candidates' data and make recruitment decisions based on qualifications, skills, and experience rather than unconscious biases related to gender, ethnicity, or other demographic factors. Promoting fairness in performance evaluation. So, moment it becomes automated or it is, for example, AI generated, what happens is that errors are less, it reduces bias, it also is promoting fairness in performance evaluation, and it also is enhancing employee retention and development. So, employee retention and development is very important because you are not only retaining your good talent, but you're also looking at their individual development. That is what an employee will look at. So if I'm an employee in an organization, I need some kind of support for what I am remaining back in the organization. And secondly, I should also have some kind of growth in the organization. That is very important. If growth is not there, then you cannot survive in the organization. Improving pay equity and transparency. Again, another important aspects we were talking about constantly is equal pay, equal remuneration, and also being transparent. Enhancing learning and development programs. Very important that you need to enhance, learn, and develop programs, and the real-time diversity analytics. AI-powered platforms can track real-time diversities data across various organization levels. These platforms can provide leadership teams with immediate insight to the effectiveness of the diversity initiatives, and it also helps them to make data-driven decisions and adjust strategies as required. So this is building inclusive companies. So this was one of the webinar which had taken place. I'll just play for y'all.
Without any further delay, I would like to invite Ms. Prachi Rastogi, Diversity and Inclusion Leader, APAC at IBM, to share her insights on mindfulness for wellness and organizational reflection. Prachi carries with her 10 plus years of experience in the field of human resources and is an ardent advocate of redefining diversity and inclusion practices. Over to you, Prachi.
Thanks a lot, Brenda, and what a pleasure it is to be sharing space with all of you. You know, it is a meditation or mindfulness practitioner's dream come true to be attending, to be participating in a mindfulness summit, which has people, experts, leaders from across the industry, and a lot of leaders in the audience as well. So very, very honored to be sharing space with you. And you know, mindfulness in terms of wellness, what surprises me and what makes me really joyous to see that an industry which was just 270 million USD in 2019 is going to be crossing 6,000 million USD by 2027, and it's almost growing year on year by about 41% year on year. So absolutely tremendous growth now looking at the numbers, and of course Corona has expedited everything. The kind of challenge that people have faced because of all the changes that were happening outside, a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and a lot of anxiety thinking what will happen, and that has not ended yet. We're still absolutely dealing with it. We don't know what will happen. Suddenly we were all at home, and there was no help, and everybody together in a family, and you know, there was at least space from each other when the world was open, and suddenly we were all sort of in a pressure cooker situation, and things have exploded. At IBM, mindfulness has been, and many other organizations that I know, mindfulness has been at IBM mainstream for many, many years. And so Corona may have accelerated it, but it was definitely there much before that. And the reason clearly is that, as Sapam said, it absolutely started with wellness. And that too in a, you know, wherever we say wellness, it's more like we've heard it, we've read it, it's good for wellness. We're not really sure why, how, but yeah, it's good for wellness. So let's start inviting people who are mindfulness meditation experts and let people do it organically, whoever is interested. But what IBM did a few years ago is that we included mindfulness actually as a mandate for orientation of our executives worldwide. So people actually travel to the United States for now and for till Corona started, and they would go through a 1 week long program, and it was continued. It was sustained for many leaders and managers. And the reason we did that is clearly that we understand that self-awareness, being more centered and anchored in the self, is the only key for a transformed behavior, because we really want our leaders to have their hearts and their heads and their hands together at work or in their personal life. And if they're only involved with the head, which is they're only the thinking center is thinking about work, that is not enough. We really need their hearts and hands as well. And mindfulness is the only way where you are tuned with your body, with your thoughts, with your feelings. And then things well up, ideas well up from within, wellness wells up from within, and work happens beyond our imagination. So you can only do this much with the mind alone. uh, and mindfulness helps leaders do so much more with their hearts and hands and soul that comes with it. So at IBM, as I was saying, that it has become, now we actually do courses. We've done 2 mindfulness summits within IBM worldwide. We do courses which are quite regular. We have weekly classes for various teams. Of course, it is still not a mandate for people to attend it. It can't be, not for everyone. It was only for executives that it's included in the orientation program. But it is clearly something that people want to attend week after week, day after day. And the good thing about how we do it, we don't just start with silence. We don't just tell people to sit silently and close their eyes and look at their breath. That, like Sapan just did a small exercise with us. We include a lot of active, semi-active, passive techniques, because not all techniques, or not the same technique, would suit everyone. While silence just in the beginning would suit a few, the modern mind is made as such that our mind is always thinking about the past or the future. So we need something more active or semi-active to anchor us within. So some activity, it could be dance, it could be laughter, it could be breathing exercises, it could be creative body movements, it could be absolutely anything which is slightly more physical in nature. And then we move to silence, and that helps, especially in organizations like ours, where the population is more towards the younger generation. We have more millennials, and that is true about, of course, our part of the world. So it becomes, so now the case is that people really, without it being a mandate, people really come to these classes. People want to practice it every day. People want to really understand if it's possible to be in a situation, whether it's corona today or something else tomorrow, these changes will not stop. World will not stop with its ups and downs. But if there's something which can anchor us within, which can actually tell us that this too shall pass. And I'm very proud of the summit today, of all the organizations that are actually pioneering mindfulness, meditation, individual leaders who are doing it. I know of many leaders who've started practicing mindfulness, especially since last year, and they see a clear difference. They absolutely see a clear difference in how they take decisions, how they are undisturbed with the ups and downs of life that happens. And it doesn't mean that they don't feel sadness or they don't feel joy. What it means is they're more alive, but at the end of the day, they also have a corner in their heart, deep in their core. This too shall pass. So many congratulations, Sapan and Digital HR, for doing this. And I'm so very excited to be hearing the other leaders, and so very excited to be practicing myself.
Okay, so this was a video on how we can, so for example, mindfulness, they're talking about how this can be taken as an activity for being more diverse, etc. So mindfulness is something that, where we consider ourselves in a situation where we need to be more particular about what we are doing, what we are thinking, and judging ourselves of the thought process that is on. So that also helps in taking decisions. So that is why I put in the concept of mindfulness. So it will help in our being when we are taking decisions, whether it is say gender neutral decisions, or we are talking about pay equity, etc. So we are able to decide because of the thought process that we develop over a period of time. And these are summary and the key takeaways. Diversity is a business strategy, not just HR compliance. So very important. We have to keep in mind it can become a core business strategy that drives innovation. It improves decision making, and strengthens global competitiveness. It's not just about meeting legal requirements or HR obligation. It is about creating a more dynamic, inclusive organization that attracts top talent and fosters sustainable growth. Bias must be addressed at the leadership level. Addressing bias must start at the top level of leadership. It cannot be, it has to be any kind of, for example, any kind of leadership or any kind of initiative has to start from the top. It cannot be from the bottom, because once it's implemented, you have to set an example and only then others will adopt. So that is what it is all about. Startups and corporations must track diversity metrics. Both startups and corporations should adopt data-driven approaches to track their diversity efforts. Very important. And diversity isn't just about representation. It is also about innovation and success. True diversity goes beyond just representation. It's about fostering an environment where diverse perspectives are actively integrated into decision making. So diversity is a powerful driver of innovation, creativity, and long-term success. It also helps organizations navigate challenges and capitalize on opportunities in an increasingly globalized world. So this is the summary and key takeaway. These are some questions I have put in just for reference from today's session. That's all for today. I'll stop the sharing and the recording.